Okay, hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Business. Today I'm with Stephanie Lee from Go Climate Positive. So I'll let her introduce herself and tell her a little bit about Go Climate Positive.
Hi everybody, I'm Stephanie Lee from Go Climate Positive. So what we do is we try and make it easy and affordable for small businesses to take meaningful action against tackling climate change. So we know that, everybody wants to do their bit to save the planet and the human race. But of course, there are other reasons for that as well, in that we know that over probably 70% of customers want to actually deal with a company that are green and have green credentials, but it's very hard to actually prove this to them. People don't know where to start or what would even make a difference, and they don't want to do it wrong. So what we do is calculate carbon footprints across your whole value chain. So that's all the emissions that you put out, but also those of your customers, your wholesalers, your retailers, and your suppliers as well. So it's a really a proper job. It's called a scope 3, and that is all your emissions. We then help you to make targeted reductions where they'll really make the biggest impact. And then we communicate honestly and transparently with your customers by creating a web page so that you can actually send them there to your website and actually see this web page, and it'll have all the details of your customer, of your carbon footprint, but also what reductions you've committed to over the next few years and any offsetting that you've purchased as well. So you can really let them know what you're doing to go green.
That sounds very, very comprehensive. So hopefully it sounds like you're not only helping the company itself, but also educating the people that are there as well. So that's for me, education is, I would need definitely walking through the education of it, and we've had many conversations about different kinds of things and how we can all improve. So I think that's a very good part of your service, is the education side of it, not just dealing with the business side of it. So
yeah, definitely. And I think there's so much to learn, and it's evolving as well in what we do every day, and even things that we thought were green perhaps aren't as green as we thought they were. For perhaps streaming Netflix and having all your data stored in the cloud and things like that is not actually as green as we thought it was. Yeah,
it's always interesting to know these little pieces of information. So recently there has been COP26 in Scotland, and I know that's not long finished, and I would like to know your thoughts on how COP26 actually ended up finishing and how that will affect business moving forward.
Yeah, so it finally ended in a bit of a rush, I think, and there was a lot of activity right at the very end, but they did get some very good things have come out of it, and there's been a huge amount of pledges by different countries to do different things, which is really good, and a lot of money pledged as well. I think the proof will be in the pudding as to whether the countries now implement it. But in the UK, some of the big announcements that have come out of it is that no electricity generated from coal will be allowed in the UK by 2024. So that's a really big thing. All new HGVs will need to be net zero emissions from 2040. Electric HGVs.
Yeah.
The companies by 2023, the big companies, so those over 250 employees, will need to submit corporate net zero transition plans as well. So there'll also be an international sustainability standards board as well. So they can establish global baselines so that financial investments and risk can be compared. So you can compare apple with apples, which will be really good. And I think, people are really going to have to, or, Boris Johnson is saying that we've really got to pull all the stops out, and absolutely, we do have a short amount of time to do this. So we do really need to get going. The other thing that's happening is that if you're a a business that wants to go for a tender with the government, which is worth over £5 million, you do actually have to show that you have a credible net zero strategy as well. So, you know, companies have to go away and do that before they can even be considered to put on the framework as well. So in terms of how it affects your business, yes, you can very actually be asked to produce one of these as well before you'll even be considered for the job. And I think that will filter down through the supply chain to the smaller companies as well.
Yeah, because obviously, as you said before, like all the supplying companies contribute to these larger companies' carbon footprint, don't they? Because just because you're not the same business, it's all part of the connection chain, and so you have to improve everywhere. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, because it's your whole value chain. So it's people who supply you and who supply them as well.
Yeah. So I run a small business, and how would a smaller business, or potentially even a new business, go looking for how to become more carbon neutral? So I look at a program that they could start implementing now, so that they can start showing this. I mean, even if it's not just say like a service based, it's more manufacturing, but it's still quite a small business. How would they go about starting a program like this?
Yeah, well, so the first thing is to find out where you are, and because you need to know what the score is and what emissions you're producing at the moment before you can then start to put a plan in to manage those. So the first thing is to get your carbon footprint done, I would say. From there, we can then identify where your emissions are coming from, and also where are going to be the places that are going to will have the biggest impact in addressing those, in bringing those down. That would be the first thing. But we can talk about because, well, what we would do is work with you to create science-based targets that you would commit to. So we insist that our customers reduce their footprint, because we don't believe it's the right thing to do to carry on as you are, creating as the amount of emissions that we already do and just buying offsets to overcome this. It's very important, if we want to hit net zero by 2050, as a global, all of us, we do need to reduce our emissions by probably up to about 90%. So it's all got to be about reducing, and we help you to set goals in line with science-based targets as well. So these will be in line with hitting net zero by 2050.
So I would assume that would very much depend on obviously the infrastructure and also the progressions with it. Like as you were saying earlier with the HGVs, that there's actually got to be a product on the market for them to physically use in order for that to be a thing. So is that probably something that the government's looking at, something like that regarding the development and obviously grants to help people develop those kind of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is so much innovation out there at the moment. There's many startup companies who are creating really innovative products to enable us to take carbon out of the atmosphere, which is what we really, really need to do, but also to create vehicles that will run on electricity or renewable electricity as well. And depending on where you are in the UK, I know with Worcestershire County Council, there's money available for scaling up and also for innovation as well. So there are lots of different grants and funding, grants and funding available. It just depends where in the country you are.
Yeah. Because I noticed something in the news the other day. I can't remember the exact date, so you'll have to forgive me. But they're saying about like every new home must have a car charging point from a set date.
Yes, definitely. It is. I think it's coming in 2023, actually.
Okay.
Where every new home or every new commercial building or retail outlet will have to have an EV charging point, and then any renovation that has got over 10 parking spaces as well will have to have that too. So because at the moment new homes don't have that, and it's quite frankly ridiculous, because the infrastructure needs to catch up with the amount of EVs that are out there at the moment and the rate at which they're growing, and you can't expect the public to adopt it if the infrastructure is not in place to enable them to charge up.
Because it did shock me actually when I read that. It's like but they're not making solar panels a requirement also. Because I know for me personally, if I was looking at, say, a house with solar panels or a house without solar panels, because I know that's the way the world's going, I would buy the one with the solar panels, so I then don't have to make that investment like a couple of years down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be. That's what I believe. And hopefully it will come in. And also talking, you know, about putting ground source heat pumps or air to air heat pumps and things like that in new builds to enable, you know, have it there from the very beginning.
Yeah, to just have it all there, so then they can, like, I mean, I understand maybe not underground storage, you know, the big batteries that they can store underneath now, maybe that not as a standard thing. So see, if you can produce it from your solar panels and just run most of it off, it's just, I mean, I should imagine sooner or later they will have to come a point where they stop putting gas in, because obviously if they don't want to use the like non-renewable sources, it's something that, like me in my current house, I've got gas central heating and a gas hob. You know, if I was ever going to change that boiler, I've got to think now, shall I have one that's not gas, and shall I just replace everything with electric? Because it's going to go that way anyway. So you may as well make that initial investment now and then change it.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, ideally, yes, let's all change to renewable electricity and using things like that. But, you know, I think at the moment there's, you know, as people, you know, create this innovation and develop more and more products, the price of them will come down as well. And that's when more people will be able to adopt it. Because unfortunately, you know, we can't all just go out and buy electric cars. So,
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
and things like that, the price premium at the moment. So yes, hopefully all the prices will come down, and that will enable us to do it. And also, I believe when National Grid is fully renewable electricity, that will be a huge tipping point for the country, because you won't have a choice. But also it'll be the same price. And if it's the same price as coal or gas, why wouldn't you have
there's no option. There's no compatible, you know, like it's like when you take my car, for example, my car will do probably easy 500-600 miles off a full tank. When an electric car can be comparable and you can charge it within a reasonable time or in your own property, and there's not so much inconvenience to it, I should imagine there will be a lot of people who will adopt it.
Absolutely.
As soon as
At the moment, if you live in an apartment where you don't have off-road parking, it's very, very hard, because how do you charge it up?
So going back to something you said earlier, like larger companies now have to have these programs that show that they are working towards being carbon neutral. So how would it go? How would a larger company go around starting this sort of program? Is it very similar to a smaller company, or is it slightly more complex because of the scale of the industry?
Yeah, so we would start in the same way, which is to actually calculate the carbon footprint. And yes, for a bigger company, it would be a much bigger, more complex footprint. But yes, effectively, you use the same classes of emissions that we would look at to do it. We also offer net zero roadmaps as well, which these companies or any company can have as well, which we would look at, which basically looks at carbon budgeting and looks at decarbonising products and services as well, to help a company actually plan out the steps they need to take to actually get to net zero by 2050 as well. So bigger companies may be more interested in something like that for them. We also provide coaching as well, because we understand that some of our customers have got to the end of 12 months, which is when we would reassess their carbon footprint, and hopefully they will have met their goals. But I think, you know, everybody's so busy, aren't they? And some people will get to the 12 months and go, oh, why didn't you come and chase me about this? You know, I needed some help, but I didn't ask for it. So we put in place an accountability package as well, where we actually talk to all the stakeholders, and we make sure that we've talked to everybody that needs to be involved. Everybody knows about it and everybody's bought in. Otherwise, it's very hard to get these things to actually stick. And we also then do quarterly progress reviews as well. So we'll get together every quarter and coach the customer as well, see where they are with their commitments to the reductions, but also, you know, how can we help them to push this through and to meet those goals as well.
Mm. So you mentioned something earlier about like offsetting carbon emissions versus a plan to reduce the carbon emissions. So do larger companies generally tend to offset right now because they can't change, do you think, to more carbon, less carbon damaging products or emissions?
Yeah, it's up to the company really, whether they want to offset or not. And it depends how big your carbon footprint is. So at the moment, to offset, for every tonne of your carbon footprint, it costs £15 to buy a tonne of offsets, basically. So what we do is we double offset. And what that means is that for every tonne, we plant a tree, because at the moment, that's the only way that you can effectively take carbon out of the atmosphere and lock it away. There are lots and lots and lots of projects going on to look at technology which can do that on a large scale. But right now, that is the best way to do it. And then the other thing is we invest into low carbon projects. And these are gold verified standard offsets. An example of something that we invest in is, for example, in Cambodia, there's a lot of people who don't have access to clean drinking water. And so they have to boil their water to make it safe. And they boil it by burning wood or gas or something like that, which of course creates emissions into the atmosphere. But of course they have to do it because they need to make the water safe. But there's actually a factory there which has been started, which makes ceramic water filters. And these water filters can be given to the people who don't have clean water, so they can filter their water to make it safe instead of burning fuel, basically. So what it means is the people who need it get clean water. It's good for the climate because you don't burn the wood or oil or gas, and so the emissions don't go into the atmosphere. But also it's great for the community because it creates jobs as well. And although it's not taking emissions out of the atmosphere directly, because the factory itself would create some emissions, it will still be far less than it would if everybody was boiling the water themselves and burning fuel to do that. So that's just an example of offsetting. And it all depends on what you as a company want to do. We don't insist that you offset. It's purely up to the business owner, you know. And for some companies, their footprint is hundreds of tons, so they might not, you know, they might decide, no, actually, I don't want to do that at the moment. What I want to do is concentrate on reducing my footprint as much as possible. So.
Yeah, could you do like as you were saying, like hundreds of tons? Could you do like partly? Could you like say that we're 50% offsetting our carbon, or does it have to be all of it or nothing, sort of thing?
If you want to go carbon neutral and be able to say that to your customers, then you would have to offset your whole footprint. We haven't actually had anybody yet who said, oh, can I just offset half of it? So
okay. Maybe no one thinks about that. You know, I mean,
we don't really have
something. Yeah, would that be something that you would consider? So let's say, for instance, it is hundreds of tons, and you know this company wants to try and make a difference, and they want to try it, but they physically just can't do that kind of like leap just yet. Would that be something that you would consider, or?
It's a possibility. It's not part of our accreditations at the moment. A partial carbon footprint, carbon neutral. But we would take each case on a base by base, but we would rather people
just try
completely.
And do it all, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it, I suppose. There's no point.
Do it properly,
So taking businesses out of it and everything, we've had conversations before about what we can do individually on how to offset our carbon. Do you have any tips or tricks that you can recommend for the viewers to what they can do to help reduce their own carbon footprint?
Yeah, one of the most effective ways that you can reduce your own personal carbon footprint is to switch to renewable electricity, and just make sure that it is fully renewable. So you want to make sure it's coming from solar or wind, and not by companies actually burning coal and then buying offsets to to then
Yeah.
say that it is green energy. So and then, you know, that is one of the really the biggest things you can do. There's lots of other things. I think if we all think hard about the journeys we make, you know, do we really need to go, or, you know, could we do several jobs all in one, you know, one trip? Things like just turning down the heating, putting a jumper on, things like that, turning, you know, just turning your thermostat down, really. Using less of things, eating, it won't be very popular with everybody, but eating less meat. My partner is from South Africa and he loves to barbecue lots of meat. So that's not going down very well in our house, but we are reducing. So, you know, every little helps. And I know we've talked about things like, you know, turning all your lights off, turning computers off at night, replacing your light bulbs with LEDs, boiling your water in the kettle before you put it on the hob for boiling your rice, rather than boiling it on the hob. It's more efficient to use your kettle. And only when you're making a cup of tea, just you know, just boil what you need. Don't boil a whole kettle full when you only really need a cupful. So yeah, there's just a few ideas, but that there are many ways in which you can, you know, start to reduce your own personal.
Actually, you mentioned that my wife was talking to me the other day. We need to get a kettle for on top of the hob, because she said they're quite fancy and quite nice, and I said no, we can't do that because that's going to be not very carbon efficient. That is, because obviously we spoke about the boiling water for like pasta and rice, and yeah, I said no, we can't have that.
I'll be in trouble with your wife then.
No, she's fine. She's just picked out a nice electric one instead, so it's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
So
another way is to public transport, if possible, walk if you can. That's great exercise as well, and great for your mental health to get out and about in the fresh air. And if you've got the opportunity to buy an electric car, that would be
if you've got the means to do it, and it's not, because I know people will say, especially like I'll try up in the comments about, well, it's not viable for me because I do this, I do this, I do this. No, we're not saying that you must do this if it's within your power in which to do so, because sooner or later you're not going to have an option. So there's only going to be electric cars. So we have to start as a community and as a country and as a world, really trying to figure out these problems and fixing it, because it's not going away. This, you know, even if they created a massive filter that could suck the carbon out of the atmosphere, we still need to stop producing it as well. We can't just keep going.
Yeah.
So I'd like to thank you very much for your time today. And
you're very welcome.
Thank you for educating us a little bit more and telling us what more we can do. How can people get in contact with you?
My email is sl@go-positive.co.uk, or you can have a look on our website. There's lots of really good information on there and ideas for reducing your footprint, but also all the science behind it as well, if you're interested in finding out more about it. And that is www.go-positive.co.uk, or my phone number is 01684 342 340. And I'd love just to have an informal chat, because I figure that, you know, every person that we talk to, if they make one small change, it's got to be a bonus, really. It's got to be it's a win for everybody. So I'd love to hear from you.
100 million people making one small change makes one big change in the overall scheme of things. So
absolutely.
In the description below will be all of Stephanie's contact details. So I'd like to thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting.